All right, and another week, another podcast, another Plumecast. Welcome everybody, episode number 14 of the Plumecast. Thank you again for stopping by. If you guys are new here, this is my weekly gaming news podcast where I talk about Xbox news and just crazy stuff that's going on within the gaming industry. I also make daily news videos Monday to Friday, generally take Saturday off, but if you haven't checked those out, if you're new to the channel, go check those out. And if you like them, find them entertaining, you find them informative, consider subscribing and hitting the like and all that kind of good stuff to help the channel grow. So this week is it's been the most dead week, I'd say, in terms of news. So it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. On top of that, I am really not feeling well. I'm not even drinking a beer this episode because I don't think that's going to help me out. Feeling just very weak and tired and everything. But if you are new, this is your first time watching, every week I drink a beer on the podcast, and I tell you what the beer is, where it's from, and then I ask for your suggestions down below of what you're drinking. And I always keep my eye out for the beers that you guys are drinking to try them out, because I love trying out new beers and different types of beers. And this today is only water, but hey, just trying to stay healthy so I can recover and be good for Monday. But yeah, other than that, in terms of what I've been playing this week, it's been a mix of stuff again, as it always is, because Xbox Game Pass, there's always random stuff to play and I'm always jumping around between things. But I have been playing Doom Eternal again. I mean, it's just such an incredible game. I think that's been the majority of what I've been playing. And I've been playing some FIFA 22 or 21, because I've been watching the Euro and kind of got me into wanting to play it. I used to be like really good at FIFA Online and stuff, and that was years ago, so I'm not that great anymore, but I've just been playing some online seasons games, and that's pretty much been it. Hopefully, I know there's a lot of viewers here, or at least there's a segment of viewers here from the UK, probably all cheering for England today, but I will be cheering for Italy because I'm Canadian, but my background is Italian, so I always get pretty excited whenever these big tournaments come every 4 years, right? Euro and the World Cup and everything. So hopefully Italy wins and crushes all of your dreams today. I'm sorry they may have to ruin your day, but that's just the way sports goes. But I think England, they're good. They have the advantage. They're playing at home and everything, so they have that. But I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens today. It should be a good game. Should be a fun time. Now, in terms of the topics we're going to go over today, going to be talking about some rumors with Warner Brothers, NetherRealm, and some stuff that Jeff Grubb touched on yesterday, I believe, on a podcast about a Western company looking to buy Japanese studios. Going to be talking about the fake console wars, but how the console wars now have shifted over to like developers and getting developers, and this article from Tech Radar, which I thought was pretty interesting, talking about Deathloop. Deathloop was shown off at the State of Play, and we got the definitive answer that this game is going to be coming onto Xbox after September 14th, or at least on or after September 14th, 2022. But I'm going to start off the podcast after this intro part with a big announcement for my channel. It's a good opportunity, I think, and hopefully you guys think it's a good opportunity too, and let me know in the comments below what you guys are thoughts on it. But let's jump right into it here with the announcement. Okay, so to start off this week's podcast, first thing I want to talk about is a very exciting opportunity that was brought to my attention. They reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, and I inquired about it after they reached out, said I was interested in meeting to discuss what it would be about. And it has to do with joining the Ubisoft Canada Guild as a brand ambassador for Ubisoft Canada. And obviously you guys know, if you're new to this channel, maybe you don't know, I am a Canadian content creator, and the Ubisoft Canada Guild brings together Canadian content creators to be brand ambassadors for Ubisoft, and there's a lot of smaller creators within this guild. So I thought it was just a great opportunity for that alone to hopefully potentially grow in the future and get more eyes on the content and grow this community. I'll be completely honest, that's one of the motivations obviously for joining this. And then the second thing is that I absolutely love tons of Ubisoft games. You've seen it on my channel. I'm not just saying this now because I'm part of the Ubisoft Canada Guild. Like, I talked about how much I enjoyed Assassin's Creed, how much I enjoyed Immortals Phoenix Rising, how I've played Rainbow Six Siege before. I really enjoyed Watch Dogs 2. The Division 2 was probably the looter shooter I've put the most amount of time in recent memory. And then Far Cry, like Far Cry 4, I had never played before, but I checked it out with the FPS boost that came to Xbox, and I absolutely loved it. And I went ahead and purchased Far Cry 5, which I still need to play before Far Cry 6 drops, because I am extremely excited for that. So in general, and then actually, I don't want to forget this game that's coming out, Riders Republic, that I talked about. If you watched my E3 stream, how excited I am for that game and how good it looks. I can't wait for Riders Republic to come out. So it's a company that makes games that I absolutely enjoy, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. So I'm really excited for this opportunity. It's going to change absolutely nothing when it comes to my channel. Like, I'm still going to be making those weekly Xbox news videos and weekly gaming videos. I'm still going to be doing this podcast, but in the only way that it's going to change the channel is that now there may be additional content. There may be additional streams, things like that. It's not going to take away from anything that you guys already are watching, and I'm assuming that you guys already enjoy. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a not only for me, but just to be able to potentially show off these games to you guys and give you some feedback on what I think about the games, and just stream them and talk about them and stuff like that. So it should be fun. And yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that now I am part of the Ubisoft Canada Guild. Okay, so moving on here to one of the most interesting games I think that we've seen in the last while, not only for the style of game it is and the gameplay, but also because of just everything going around with Deathloop. So Arcane Studios Deathloop. And as we know, Arcane Studios is now an Xbox Game Studios owned by Microsoft, a first-party developer for Xbox. And their next big game after the Dishonored series is going to be a console launch exclusive on the PlayStation 5. Now, this was announced a while ago, right? We already knew about this, and this was something that was obviously created before Xbox bought Bethesda. And then when Xbox bought Bethesda, they said that they were going to continue to honor those relationships and those contracts that they had entered before the purchase was finalized. And that is why PlayStation 5 is still a console exclusive. And we'll get into it further, but I don't think that is the only reason. But a lot of questions that people had surrounding this game was, is Deathloop going to make its way out on to Xbox at a later date? Well, it's seemingly been confirmed here, because PlayStation had a state of play this week, and they showed off a bunch of random stuff, a bunch of indie games, and they ended off the show with showing Deathloop. And it was like a 9-minute video. Again, the game looks awesome. It looks like Dishonored pretty much, with like a new setting and new characters and just new mechanics of the game. You are a guy stuck on, I think his name is Colt or something like that, stuck on an island, and you have to assassinate 8 enemies before time runs out or before you die. And if you don't, everything restarts, and every time you restart, you learn more about the enemies and how to take on these assassinations. And then there's also a enemy called Juliana, who I don't believe is one of the people you have to assassinate. I could be wrong on that, but that is an NPC or a user-controlled player that hunts you throughout your playing of Deathloop, which I thought sounds super cool. Like, the multiplayer experiences you can have with this, I think, are going to be a lot of fun, whether that is playing with somebody online, if that's something that can happen, I'm not sure, or if it's even just doing couch or like a LAN. I guess couch co-op wouldn't make sense because you would both kind of see where each other are. So yeah, that wouldn't make sense. But if you're doing like, yeah, 2 Xboxes in the same house, I think it would just be so cool to kind of have nights where you're playing Deathloop and one person's the hunter, one person's trying to assassinate all 8 guys without dying first. So that part really got me excited. I'm excited for Deathloop. But getting back to, is this game coming to Xbox? And the answer is yes. So at the end, they showed PlayStation 5 console exclusive, also available on, in fine print at the bottom, also available on PC, which we knew. So it's not just PlayStation 5. If you're somebody who wants to play this game, you don't got a PS5, you're still going to be able to play this on PC when it launches in September. And it says not available on other consoles until September 14th, 2022, which you can pretty much bring to the bank that Deathloop is coming to Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, keep that in mind, on September 14th, 2022, or Yeah, September 14th. I guess they wouldn't have to wait till the 15th. So September 14th, 2022, which to me is, I'm assuming that was going to happen anyways. It's not a big surprise, but it's good that we have that confirmation. For me personally, Deathloop looks like an awesome game, and a game that if it was on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, I would be playing day one, because the gameplay itself looks very similar to Dishonored, with like the gunplay, the weapons, the powers, that kind of stuff, the graphics, the way that the character walks and moves and everything, and the stealthy part of it. So, and I loved the first Dishonored. It was one of my favorite games that I've played, and I only played it, well, actually I played it twice. I can't say I only played it this year, but I played it twice, because I played it once when it first came out on PC, but I had just like a shitty laptop and it just didn't run well, so I probably only beat half of it. I didn't finish it. And then I played it again once I got the FPS boost on Xbox, and it's just such an outstanding game. Now I need to play Dishonored 2, because I'm sure that one is just as good. But yeah, it's such an outstanding game. So that alone has me so excited to play Deathloop. But I'm not going to go and pick it up. I have a PS5, but I'm not going to go pick it up on PS5. And I'm not going to play it on PC. I'm most likely going to wait until it comes out on Xbox for a couple of reasons. Well, one is like Game Pass. Why would I spend money on a game I know is coming to Game Pass in a year from now? I can save in Canada again. Keep this in mind. It's $90 before taxes. Well, I guess this probably won't be $90. It'll be $80 before taxes. So it'll be $9 after taxes in Canada. When I can save that $90, knowing that's going to come to Game Pass, and just play it a year later. And then two, obviously I want to get those achievements on Xbox. I'm not really a big achievement hunter. Like, I don't go in 100% all my games and everything, but I do, if I'm going to play a game that I know is coming out on multiple platforms, I play it on Xbox. One of the main reasons is just because I like tracking like which games I've played all on one console. I like seeing all the achievements, even if I don't 100% them all. And I want to do the same thing here with Deathloop. And then on top of that, there are so many games coming out between September 2021 and September 2022. I can go with waiting on Deathloop for an entire year, and I'm just patient like that. Like, I'm not somebody who needs to play every single game day one. There are certain games I need to play day one that I can't wait for, like Halo. I'm playing that day one, nothing's stopping me. If it wasn't on Game Pass, I go and I spend full retail price on it. I'm probably they haven't announced any special editions for Halo Infinite, which is kind of unfortunate, but although Halo Infinite is coming out onto Game Pass, obviously, I'm going to go buy any sort of special edition that they have if they make one, and I hope they do, because I think some of the Halo, like the Halo 3 one, was incredible, where you got the actual helmet and everything. So I hope they do something really cool like that. But there's just so many games coming out between when Deathloop drops and when next year that I'm going to be completely satisfied to wait for this game. There's games that are single player games, and then there's games that are going to be games I play throughout the entire year, which will take up my time. So it's not that big of a deal for me to wait the entire year to play it. And it's funny because we see people talking about this. The state of play that happened this past week was highlighted by an Xbox Game Studios game. That's how crazy that is. Like, you got to think about that, right? But I think there's still a lot of people that don't know that after watching this, because there was no mention, unless I missed it, that it was an Xbox Game Studios. It was just Arcane. But it's so smart from Xbox's standpoint. Like, yeah, they kept the deal to keep it on PlayStation 5, and I'm sure they could have gotten around it if they wanted to. Like, they own Arcane. They could have broken the contract, whatever. It's like a drop in the bucket probably if they had to pay some fees for doing that for Microsoft. Like, I don't think that was a big deal. If there are some contractual lawyers who are listening, or anybody who's an expert on this stuff, and I'm completely wrong, please let me know. But I just don't think that, like, it was a point of worry for Xbox if they felt that they had to break the contract. But they kept it, and they're allowing PlayStation 5 to be the console exclusive game for an entire year for Deathloop. And it's a brilliant move, because they're going to be making all of the money from PlayStation users for an entire year who are going to be purchasing this game. They're going to be making a decent amount of money off of that. They're going to be making a decent amount of money from people who are purchasing the game on PC. And then next year, this is going to be a game that they're going to be able to use for advertising and marketing for Xbox Game Pass and for Xbox Game Studios to get more people to play it on Xbox and to sign up to Xbox Game Pass. So it's a win-win-win for Xbox. And I think that in general, although I think that Xbox is the good guy, where in the terms of they're keeping these contracts, they're still supporting the legacy games, and they want people to play games on as many platforms as possible. I think that part is probably the biggest thing for them. Like, well, why would we not cancel this contract? Who cares? Like, we're going to make money off PlayStation and PC users, and then people are going to be playing on Game Pass a year later. We have tons of content coming out on Game Pass between the time Deathloop drops in 2021 to the time it's going to be able to come onto an Xbox platform, that it's not that big of a deal. So it's a win-win for Xbox, and overall the game does look great though. So Arcane, I think Arcane is going to be like a gem studio for Xbox Game Studios going forward, with just their imagination. Like, you see Dishonored, how imaginative it is, and you see Deathloop, the same thing. And I just love the style of games that they make, where it's like a first person shooter, but it has a lot of like stealth and tactical side to it that you got to think about before you just go in and start shooting everybody up. I do enjoy the first person shooters where you run in guns blazing, but this is definitely a nice change. And again, Dishonored was such a great game. So that's it for that. Let me know what you guys think about Deathloop, and if you're going to wait the entire year to play it on Xbox. So moving on here to a couple of rumors that have just cropped up over the last few days, or at least they're back in the news over the last few days, and they could potentially be involving Xbox. We don't know. We will have to wait and see if any of these actually come to fruition, but it is regarding the sale or acquisition of 2 studios. The first one here being NetherRealm. So there's a rumor going around that NetherRealm is looking to be sold, and this comes via the Xbox 2 podcast from Jez Corden. And on that podcast, he says, "This document I've got seems to suggest that among the studios potentially that they're looking to spin off is NetherRealm and TT Games. Now, don't take that as evidence that Microsoft is going to acquire NetherRealm or Traveler's Tales, because I have no information to suggest that they are right now personally. But I have heard that NetherRealm potentially could be up for sale. I have heard Traveler's Tales potentially could be up for sale, and I do have a document to back up that evidence." So that's interesting, because as we know, with that big merger with like Warner Media and Discovery and everything, and then AT&T keeping the gaming division stuff, and that they were planning on potentially selling off some of those studios, and they had already sold one off here. So they had sold off, or Warner Brothers had sold off Playdemic mobile games to EA Games for $1.4 billion. And then AT&T went on to say that there were no plans to actually sell anymore. As they said here, the remaining Warner Brothers games portfolio is included in the recently announced Warner Media Discovery transaction, will become part of the combined media and entertainment company after the expected close of that transaction. So they're making it sound like there is no looking to selling off any more studios, but then we're getting this rumor here that Jez Corden, I guess, has a document that shows that there's evidence that they are looking to sell. Now, NetherRealm in particular is one that is very interesting. It's one that keeps coming up, and one that I think a lot of people think would be a great fit for Microsoft, for Xbox, because the fighting genre within the portfolio of Xbox Game Studios games is lacking. Like, that's the best way to put it. There's Killer Instinct, which when that reboot or remake or whatever, or that new Killer Instinct came out with the Xbox One, it was one of, I say, the bright spots of the release of the Xbox One, but then we just haven't seen anything else from it since then. And I think that getting a strong fighting game, it would be great for Xbox to have one that you can use in esports and use in all these game tournaments that pop up. You could even use it in, because I guess Sony owns, or PlayStation owns, Evo now. Maybe make a game from Xbox Game Studios that is involved in Evo. It would just be a way to just kind of get into that competitive scene more, and it's just add to the portfolio of Xbox Game Studios. It's definitely a part that's lacking. I think fighting and like the 3D platformer section of Game Pass and Xbox Game Studios are two parts or two types of games that Xbox could focus on to add to really round out the entire portfolio. So NetherRealm in general will be a great fit for Xbox, and I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Spencer is interested in it and looking to see if it's something that could happen, if it's even possible, if they want to spend the money on it going forward, because then you could get NetherRealm to go ahead and work on Killer Instinct, right? You can get them to create great fighting games for Xbox Game Studios. I don't 100% know how the IP stuff would work, but I'm assuming that if they were to get NetherRealm, they would also get the rights to the Mortal Kombat IP, which would be so big because it's one of the biggest fighting franchises out there. It's one of the best fighting games around. And imagine being able to add a game, let's say even if they don't go ahead and continue to make Killer Instinct, which they've said that they want to do that, so I think they will at some point. But even if they did it, the fact that they have Mortal Kombat in their portfolio would just be such a massive thing, and it would attract a lot of people, obviously, to sign up to Xbox Game Pass, and it would be crazy. And the second thing that a lot of people, or that popped up this weekend, was a rumor from Jeff Grubb talking about a major Western company looking to buy studios in Japan. Now, this was on the Xbox Chatter Days podcast from Windows Central Gaming, so I'll just play it here, what Jeff Grubb said.
Yeah, there's rumblings about a big investment coming from the West into a Japanese company. That's something I've heard recently, and I've heard it like that. It's put that way, so it's like that vague. But that alone is pretty interesting, because that's typically not how things go. Typically, there's not a Western company investing in a Japanese company, because that's there's a lot of red tape, and it was very difficult. It's become a little bit more streamlined and a little bit easier to accomplish in the last year or so. I think the rules on that have lightened up. So maybe we start to see that dam break a little bit, and maybe that has something to do with Microsoft and Konami. I think there's a chance still that this like the rumblings I'm hearing might be Microsoft and Kojima Productions. But I mean, I don't know for sure. So it's like maybe this is all matching up, because we're hearing about this because there is something happening with Microsoft and Konami. I think that.
So there you have it. He just pretty much, like he says there, that there are rumblings that a big Western company is looking to invest in developers in Japan, and that the rules and restrictions regarding that have opened up in the past year. And that's something that I've seen in my comments, and people always talk about whenever there are those rumors about Microsoft or Xbox acquiring any sort of Japanese studio. It seems that it's almost impossible for a Western company to be able to do this, but I guess according to what's going on right now, it could be the start where they're becoming less strict on that. And Kojima, we've heard about the Kojima stuff. We've heard about the letter of intent that's been signed between Kojima and Xbox to partner in making his next IP, probably because he wants to use all of the cloud technology with xCloud and everything, and that they hired that person from, I think her name was Kim Swift, I believe that was her name, but they hired her, who previously was part of Google Stadia and worked on the cloud tech there, and worked on Portal before that, all that kind of stuff. And that all just makes a lot of sense. If you're hiring somebody to oversee the cloud gaming side of things and to work on a specific title with Kojima because he wants to use that cloud technology, Kojima signing a partnership with Xbox just makes a ton of sense overall, with xCloud probably being the most premier, the best cloud gaming service out there right now, and is going to evolve to be the one with the most subscribers. So, which, I mean, it already is right now with Xbox Game Pass, so I guess it already is, but I guess more people will be using it as the subscribers go up. And then in other parts of the world, like xCloud on mobile phones in Japan will be a big thing, and I think Kojima really wants to capitalize on that. But maybe it's more, maybe there's more to it. Maybe Xbox wants to actually purchase Kojima Productions. Now, I don't know how much Kojima Productions would be worth, but I don't think it would be that crazy of a purchase price. It would be pretty easy for Microsoft to buy it if they wanted to. I mean, they could pretty much buy anything. They are a $2 trillion company now. But he's made Death Stranding from Kojima Productions, and the game overall, from what I understood, didn't sell as well as they would have liked, at least on the PlayStation. And I think it was doing decent on PC. So his company probably isn't worth that crazy amount. And you never know, that could be just something huge if Microsoft makes that splash and decides, hey, we're not just going to partner with Kojima, we're going to go ahead and buy the entire studio, and he's going to be making exclusive games for the Xbox ecosystem forever. You know, until I guess he decides he doesn't want to work for Microsoft anymore. So That would be nuts. And then Konami's the other one there, right? So Konami, as we know, they have kind of backed away from making those big AAA games. They have so many great IPs, Castlevania, Silent Hill, Metal Gear. Like, there's so many under Konami that are just sitting there. And if with the right developer and the right team behind it and just the right people, there could be decades more of amazing games coming out of those IPs. So I think that Konami, I feel like that one's a little bit more far-fetched. I don't know if Konami wants, because how much would Konami cost? They're such a big studio in Japan. They're such like a big name, and it just seems that one a bit unrealistic. But according to Jeff Grubb, is that the rumblings he's hearing are with Konami and potentially Kojima. Now, these are just rumblings, they're just rumors. They may not mean anything, but at the very least, if Xbox were to get some sort of partnership with Kojima, I think it would be super smart of them to try to get access to the IPs that Konami has, try to get access to Metal Gear, pay them for it, whatever, because they're not doing anything with it. And I'm sure for the right cost, they will sell it, or they will provide the rights to another company. I feel like there's no point in just, as a company, you're a business, right? It's just this asset that you have that's just sitting there. It's collecting dust. You're not making, well, okay, I shouldn't say that, because they're still going to be making money off it, off all of the other stuff that they're doing, that they've done in the past from it. They still make all of those royalties, but they're not going to be making any new future money off of it if they're just letting the IP sit there. And they can make a ton of cash, a ton. Like, it would sell for a crazy amount if they were to sell some of these IPs to a company like Microsoft. So maybe that's what's going to happen. May not be the purchase of the entire studios and acquiring everything. It could just be the acquisition of the rights of some of these IPs and then getting Kojima to work on some of these IPs. We don't know what his next game is going to be, but how crazy would it be if not only the next announcement was Kojima is working on his next IP for the Xbox ecosystem, and Microsoft has acquired the rights to make Metal Gear Solid. It would be insane. But we'll have to wait and see. These, again, are all just rumors. I feel like these rumors have been in the mill for a while now. This isn't the first time we've heard about NetherRealm. This isn't the first time we've heard about Konami. And maybe that means that there is something going on there. Okay, end off today's show. There was this interesting article that came out from Tech Radar, and it's asking about the, I guess you could say, current day console wars, even though I kind of think the direct console wars where you are selling consoles and whoever has the most sales of consoles is winning, I think those days are long gone. People still like to look at that, but it doesn't really mean too much, especially with the strategy Microsoft is employing. But this article from Tech Radar says, is Xbox winning the console war with developers? So I'll read the first paragraph here. It says, for as long as Xbox and PlayStation continue to compete as rivals, so too will the console wars rage on. Fans on either side will celebrate their favorite hardware successes and highlight even the slightest misstep by the competition. Gaming is more than its often tribalistic fans, though, and while players might still have a lot to debate, it sounds like Xbox is steaming ahead in the eyes of some developers. Now, the reason I read that opening paragraph is because when you go on social media, you look at all of the fanboy stuff from both sides. I mean, there's fanboys on every platform, like the ones that their whole goal is to just talk trash about the other platform and will always defend the platform that they're on. So when I think of fanboys, that's what I think of. I don't think of people who have a preference and enjoy playing on a certain platform and get excited for the stuff coming up to it, or the ones that just poke fun, just have fun with what's going on with the console wars. The ones that actually make it their daily goal and job to just say bad things about opposing people's platforms of preference. Those are the tribalistic fans, right? But that reason I read that paragraph was that, and also because they talk about here, they say that Xbox is steaming ahead in the eyes of some developers. And I would say that that is a pretty valid statement right now with what Xbox is doing with Xbox Game Pass and their ecosystem. I think going forward, we've already seen it. More and more developers are going to see the benefit of being able to create a game, put it on Xbox Game Pass, even if you're not selling it at full price, even because it's been proven people still will buy it on other platforms. But it's not even that, it's having the access to the millions and millions of subscribers instantly. And the reason this article was written is because there was a interview with GameIndustry.biz and Avalanche's CEO Pim Holf. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. And talking about the reasons, I guess, why they partnered with Xbox. One of the big reasons why they partnered with Xbox with, as we know, the upcoming Xbox exclusive game that was announced at E3, Contraband. And he says here that Xbox isn't just about cash, but entertainment. We're entering vast numbers of people, and he's referring to Xbox Game Pass itself, and talks also about a previous game that was released 4 years ago called The Hunter Call of the Wild, and saying that today they still have around 1 million active users, and a big chunk of that comes from Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass was fantastic because we were able to reach so many more players. It's a good way for people to try the game. And then once they try the game, they make their cash through DLC payments and people just like purchasing the game outright if they enjoy it. And for them, at least, that business model really works to their advantage. So it's an interesting take overall on the console wars because, like I said, there's still people that look at the direct sales of consoles, like 1-to-1, how many Xboxes are sold, how many PS5s are sold, and that's who's winning the console wars. And we know that it's pretty relevant in today's day and age with video games because they're losing money off consoles. There's literally a chip shortage, so they can't even produce and sell as many consoles as they want. And Xbox specifically allows you to access their games anywhere. And when you're looking at just the chip shortage and just the console sales, Xbox is in a much better position than PlayStation because of their ecosystem. They don't have to worry as much about the chip shortage. I mean, they're even taking their Series X's and putting them into their server stacks for xCloud rather than taking those specific units and selling them to the consumers. That's how little, or that's how less important it is to them to sell an individual unit of their console versus getting people into their ecosystem and having them subscribe to Game Pass and then having them pay those monthly fees over a long period of time. Like the amount of money you're going to make off of a single user in their lifetime is going to be way more at the end of it if they're paying a monthly fee through Xbox Game Pass than if they are just buying a console and buying a couple games and then playing those games. So the console war thing is dead, and the developer thing is very interesting. And this isn't the first developer that has decided to put the partner with Xbox and put their game on Game Pass day one. We saw The Medium. We saw Outriders, although it wasn't exclusive to Xbox. It wasn't like a time exclusive or anything. They still put the game out there on Game Pass on day one. And we're going to see a lot more of that stuff coming through. And it's interesting too, when you think about the games that drop onto Xbox Game Pass on day one, a lot of them are surprises. Like if you think about Outriders, that was a major third-party game that didn't get announced for Game Pass on day one until, what was it, like a month maybe even less before the release of the game. So I think you're going to have a lot of these developers, as they're going through creating their game, realize that they should reach out or they should make some sort of deal with Xbox so that they can get an instant base of players right away, get some of their development costs covered, get some of their marketing costs covered. And for Xbox right now, their goal is to increase Game Pass numbers. So they're going to do what they have to do. They don't mind spending that extra money on getting some games that they hadn't planned previously to get onto the service on day one, because they know if they do that, more people are going to sign up for the service itself. And this article continues on talking about the developers, and is one developer enough to win the war? It obviously isn't. I mean, you need multiple developers. And one of the big things we talked about last week was the indie developer stuff. So that was a big problem with PSN, with all of the hoops that indie developers have to jump through in order to get their games onto the store, in order to get any sort of recognition for people to be able to find those games. And as an indie developer, it just, to me, it seemed like a waste of time. And another thing they mentioned here was that kind of stuff is going to really play into the hands of Xbox, because with indie developers, if it's so hard to put those games out on the PSN to get them seen on the storefront and everything, they also mentioned that it was hard to get updates DLC and all that kind of stuff on those indie games through PSN. If that stuff is easier on Xbox, you're going to see more indie games probably coming over to Xbox in order to show their games and just put them on to potentially the Game Pass service. But the main point of this article at the end of the day was that if more developers see the benefits like Avalanche has seen with Xbox Game Pass, more developers are going to join the service. You're going to get more games on Xbox than you are going to get on PS5. And I see this trend continuing, and I see a lot of people that are in the same boat as me when it comes to these consoles. It's that the Xbox console is my main way to play video games. Yet I still play on everything else, but I have other things for like specific stuff. Like my PS5, I literally have only played Miles Morales and Ratchet and Clank, the 2 games that I've beat, and that's it. Like that's all I've done on it. It's going to be just for the exclusives is what I'm going to use my PS5 for. Nintendo Switch is like the same thing. Really, it's just going to be the exclusives that I use my Nintendo Switch for. But the Xbox is going to be the console that I play everything. Third party, I guess indies or third party, but indies, first party, multiplayer, MMOs, all that kind of stuff, because all of those games are available on the service. There's more games there in general. And I can play these games on my PC. If my Xbox is being used, I can play them on my Xbox. If my PC is being used, I can stream some of them on xCloud if everything else is being used and it's my only option. So there's just so many options. And I think that's the real, I guess, I hate saying console wars because console wars are dead. Like they're literally dead. People still tout console wars they're just wrong. They're dead. Console wars are done. But, the console wars are between the developers now. It's like that's why Xbox is going out and buying all these developers. They know that they need to have this ecosystem supported with constant stuff. They look at Netflix. They see what Netflix has done with all their Netflix movies. And when Netflix first started, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they didn't have as much content as they have now. They didn't have constant movie production, like first party stuff. Yes, I don't know what it's called, but Netflix Studios or whatever, coming out all the time. And it's the model that everyone is following because it works. And that's what Xbox is doing. That's why they're buying all these studios. So every day you're going to eventually log on to Game Pass and there's going to be new content for you to check out. Sometimes it'll be big first party stuff. Sometimes it'll be smaller indie stuff. And sometimes it'll be third party stuff. But there will always be something for you to play. And that's where I see Xbox pulling ahead way further than PlayStation and Nintendo. That's it for me, guys. Let me know, as usual, every single week, what you guys think about everything that I've talked about in this podcast, or at least one of the things you were the most interested in. Thank you again all for stopping by. Thank you for supporting the channel. And I'll be obviously making videos again this week, starting tomorrow, hopefully feeling a bit better tomorrow when I wake up. Hope you guys all had a great weekend, and I will catch you in videos this week or next week on the Plumecast.
Bye.